Go.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Rohit from Product Marketing. And today along with Sean, whose voice you just heard and who will introduce himself later, we are very excited to do a webinar on a feature that was very recently released called Access Visibility. So, Sean, you want to say a few words? Sean is our sales engineer, technical sales engineer.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Looking forward to this webinar.
Okay. As we move on to the agenda, I want to remind everyone that they can ask questions using the Q&A widget. And as soon as we reply to those questions, they will go to the Answered tab. And there might be a thread going on in the Answered tab as we add more details to the answer. So if the question has disappeared, then it should be in the Answered tab. We can also answer some questions live if the opportunity presents itself. So the agenda today is that I will provide a quick introduction to CloudConnexa, just so that folks are familiar with the terms that we use and get a bit of background on the service that we provide. Then Sean is going to get into what access visibility is, what it shows, and then present some demos on how access visibility can be useful to you using a variety of scenarios. All right, so let's begin with an introduction to CloudConnexa. So what is CloudConnexa? You can think of CloudConnexa as a cloud-delivered service that creates a virtual private overlay network. And then you can use this network to connect all your users, networks, applications. And as it shows there, this service is available from a lot of points of presence, or later you will see we call them regions. And you just connect to the region closest to you. We have also integrated security features like content filtering and IDS, IPS. So it provides advanced security functions as well as advanced routing. So as I mentioned, these points of presence are called as regions in the administration portal. And they are basically our data centers where we host our kernel optimized high performance servers. And these regions each connect to one another using a full mesh topology. So what that means is that there is always a direct connection between our regions. So that makes it high performance and low latency links and routing, as well as because of mesh connectivity, there are always redundant routes present to all the other regions. So even if a few of our tunnels go down, there is always a redundant route that the traffic can go over. Next is the importance of Cloud ID. And why is Cloud ID important? So CloudConnexa is a multi-tenant service. That means all the regions, the core network, our platform, they all are built from the get-go to support multi-tenancy. All the networks and customers are virtually isolated. So we do not spin up any dedicated servers. And we identify each of these overlay networks that are created by a Cloud ID. So Cloud ID is the unique identifier. Here you see it's of the format wpc.name.openvpn.com. So you can think of it as a subdomain, so which is uniquely provided to your overlay network. And this URL, the wpc name.openvpn.com, you can use to access your administration portal and to download configuration profiles into your clients. So simplistically, you can think about your CloudConnexa overlay network, which we call as WPC, Wide Area Private Cloud, as kind of a virtual distributed router and a next generation firewall, whose ports you can think of are the regions that are spread all over the world. So how do you connect your users, servers, and networks to these regions, or you can think of them as the ports, is by using clients. So we have Connect client that's available on all our desktop and smartphone operating systems. And what it does is it basically sets up an OpenVPN tunnel to one of those regions and establishes connectivity. Now you can see that we also have something called as a connector. So the connector is similar to the Connect client, but based on the context of which it was configured in the administration portal, it essentially creates an always-on, unattended tunnel to the region. And what this allows for is that using a connector, you can make services accessible to the WPC. So once you install a connector on a server, you can make the services running on that server accessible, and that's what we call as a host. Or it can act as a router and make the services available on your entire network available to the WPC. Once connectors are used and you connect, it gets connected and provides access to those services, then your users can use the Connect app and establish, on-demand connections whenever they need to access the services. So to summarize, connectors make networks and applications part of the WPC, and clients are used to connect to the WPC and consume services made available via the connectors. So as I mentioned earlier, host is when you install this connector on the server itself. So you are not exposing the entire network or connecting the entire network to your WPC, but just that specific application server and making just the services on that application server available for access. Whereas network, the connector provides access to all the applications that are available on the network. And finally, applications are services that are being defined for access by your users, and they are defined using fully qualified domain names. All right. So what makes our service different? So our service is targeted mainly to small, medium business size companies who may or may not have staff that are well versed in cybersecurity or data networking and routing. So our service once you experience it, and I hope that you do, is very easy to set up. We focus on having wizards and making it very easy to set up. One of the features that makes it easy to set up is what we call as application routing. So instead of using IP address subnets to declare as routes to various private networks, you can just configure applications using domain names, and the domain names themselves act as a route to those networks. So we can also handle networks with overlapping IP address ranges because the subnet IP ranges are not used. We can use application domain names for routing. And then we also have value-added services, security features like content filtering. So your remote users, when they are browsing the web, they can be protected from malware, phishing sites, etc., as well as intrusion detection and protection. So it's all-in-one solution that meets a lot of your needs. And our pricing is based on the number of simultaneous connections. So it's not user-based or device-based. You can configure as many users or devices, make it available to as many devices as you want. But as long as 3 connections are active at a given time, so 3 simultaneous connections, our free plan can be used. So those are our differentiation points, at least the top 3. So now I'll give it to Sean to take it the rest of the way. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Rohit. So now we're going to look at the admin user interface, how to enable access visibility, and we're going to look at what the logs look like. So without any further ado, let me first explain about what access visibility is, and then we're going to get to the everything else. So the access visibility basically analyzes the traffic flow or traffic flow logs to offer basically information into what's being accessed and by whom on your network or WPC. Traffic flows are basically quantified in terms of access event, and an access event is generated when a new traffic flow is allowed or blocked due to access control. Now, let's see, here we go. A traffic flow is basically categorized as a unique association between the data traffic source and its destination. You're going to see that in the admin UI in a minute. This association is basically identified by its source IP address, destination IP address, source port, destination port, and the protocol field. So if we want to simplify that, access visibility basically offers detailed insights into traffic flows that have basically traveled through the WPC, about users, about hosts, networks, and basically any traffic that was directed towards any destination. Now, it addresses basically 3 primary concerns related to the traffic flow that's being processed by the WPC. First one is who, which is the traffic source, attempted or successfully access what, which is a traffic destination. And then which private applications are used accessing or being accessed by any users. And when this occurred, when was it, the time and date. So ensuring that access policies function as intended also is crucial for a successful implementation of the Zero Trust framework, and that's what really matters here. So utilizing the information from access events, basically you can verify if access controls are functioning as intended or determine if the necessity for a new access control is in place. Also, you can recognize which user, networks, and hosts are accessing the internet through the VPN if you have internet gateway set up or split tunnel off. Also, you can uncover any internal services using detailed traffic flow data and established services, basically to enhance service-oriented access visibility. Again, we're going to show this during the admin UI once we get into that part. Also, ensuring routing and load balancing operated as expected. That's another one. And evaluate if an access denial alert was due to a legitimate reason or a potential malicious intent, if somebody was trying to access something by mistake or it was intended. So these are, this basically was a quick introduction about access visibility. It's going to make more sense once we look at it through the admin UI. The first part, I'm going to show you how to enable the access visibility on your portal. Then we're going to look at destination filters, traffic sources, and look at the blocked and allowed access events. And then we're going to look at a couple of different scenarios that it may happen on your network from your users. So let me go ahead and bring up the admin user interface. As you can see, it's on the screen right now. And on this WPC, I haven't enabled access visibility yet. In order to do that, you basically expand your access, and then you have the visibility here. Once you click on it, you're going to get a quick description of access visibility. You can read through it, and then when you're ready, you click on Enable. Once it's enabled, at any time if you want to turn it off, you can just toggle the switch, and it's going to be turned off, and then toggle it back. It's going to turn it back on. Now, if you want to look at that description, again, you just click on this question mark on the upper right corner, and it's going to bring that description back to you. Now, once enabled, you're going to have a few fields here that you can set for filtering. Actually, filtering by time range obviously helps you to find access event within a specific time. Right now on this platform, it shows 24 hours and 7 days. I think with the next future update, which is going to be a few days, you're going to have 30 days added here also. So you can have an option of looking at the events within the last 24 hours, 7 days, or 30 days. Then we get to destination filters. Filtering by specific source or destination basically helps us to easily find and navigate the intended information. Now, in this the scenario that you're going to see in a minute, obviously this is a sandbox scenario, so I don't have that many events. I just created a few that we can show you during the demo, but in real life, you may have a lot of events happening. So using filters, it makes it a little bit easier. So destination filters basically gives us the destination traffic that provides a picture of what was accessed or tried to access. And then, as you can see, you can choose the different groups if you have different groups, hosts, networks, and ports and protocols. Also, if you want to search by or look at the destination by IP subnet, you can add it here. Now, the values is always allowed or blocked. You can choose whichever you want to select. Now, obviously, if you leave it blank, it's going to show everything. Then if you scroll down, you're going to see the traffic sources. Now, traffic source overview basically provides a picture of who accessed or tried to access WPC resources or went through the internet through the WPC if they have used any internet gateway. Now, as you can see, again, you can filter by user groups, choosing the groups, choosing users and region, or you can filter by networks. Obviously, you can choose the networks that you may have by subnets and region, and then hosts if you're using any host. So that's basically a quick overview of how to enable access visibility and looking at different filters. Now, let me go back to my slide and look at a real life scenario. So we're going to look at, see how we can use access visibility in real world scenarios. Let's say you're an admin. David, as one of your users, put a trouble ticket that he can access an application. And in our scenario here, the application is a time card. So we want to check the access group to make sure that David is allowed to have access or part of the group that has access to the time card. And then we're going to use the access visibility filters to display the access events for David. And we're going to see what's happening. Now, in our scenario, we're going to see David is attempting to access, and I have the name wrong here on the last paragraph or bullet points, but David is trying to attempt the time card using HTTP instead of HTTPS, and that's why it's being blocked. This is what we're going to find out during the demo. So let's go back to WPC. I'm going to switch my WPC to one that I have some of the events have already been created. So I'm going to go to my access visibility here. And as you can see, I got events created here based on the departments or user groups. Now let's go ahead and look at David first and see what group he's a member of, and then see what access that group has and what that time card or app is. So we're going to go to our users. If I look at David, David is part of the marketing team. Now, I'm going to look at my access groups under access to see what marketing team has access to. So if I look at marketing here, as you can see, they have access to time card secure and then shared. So I need to find out what's this time card secured is and what protocol is using. Now, the easiest way to do this, I can go back to my networks, to applications. This is where I have all my applications added to my WPC. And if I search for time card secure, I can see the address is this, is an HTTPS. So we want to make sure that David is accessing the right information or right protocol. Now, one more piece of information I need here, I need to know what's the IP address for this server that David is trying to access. Now, in your network, you may have DNS servers that you can look into that's DNS servers, look at for the data or record. In my environment, I'm looking at the DNS record that was created on my CloudConnexa. And if I look at here, I can see my time card has the IP address of .1.68. So this is what I'm going to look in the access visibility. Now let's go back to access visibility. Again, if you remember, David was part of the marketing team. Now, I can look at the marketing here, and there might be a lot of information here, different tabs, different information. But as we talk about for the destination or source, we want to make sure that we choose the right, users and the right filters, basically. So on the source filter, I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to choose David here to see what kind of events David has, have under his account. So I can see the application here, access an application here under RNONet, and it was allowed. But I want to know what it was blocked. So if I go to the network, now I can see that there was a blocked items here. So if I click on that, now two things I want to make sure. First of all, I want to make sure that I'm on a block tab here. And then if I scroll down, I can see that's the IP address of my time card server, and David was accessing HTTP instead of HTTPS. So it makes it a lot easier for me to see that what David was making or doing that was basically not allowing him to access the time card. So I can go back to him and say, hey, you need to use HTTPS to access the time card instead of using HTTP. So that's a real-time basically, or real scenario that can happen on a network if somebody doesn't have, access to an application and wondering why I can't access it. Now, going back to the slide, I'm going to look at another scenario here. Using access visibility to check access group. Now, you can check the access groups and perhaps firewalls that are being enforced through the access visibility. Again, another good way to make sure that people that they have access to certain resources, they can access it, and other people, they're not. Again, going back to my admin portal, let's look at different groups on their access visibility. If I clear the values here, last 24 hours, I can see there are some blocked and allowed information here. For example, if I click on accounting, I can see the accounting team, they were access the accounting app, shared app, and time card on secure. So they were able to access that. Now, if I want to verify, make sure these guys, they have access to these informations or resources, I can just go back to my access groups and look at my accounting. So they do have access to accounting, they do have access to time card unsecure, and they do have access to the shared. So there is no problem here. So they are using the right resources. Now, if I go to networks, if something was blocked, I could see here, but I don't have anything blocked for them. So that's okay. Now, if I go back to the access visibility again, look at another team, as you can see here. Now they have two different networks that they access, HQNet and RNONet. They access shared and time card secure, and this is my DB team. So again, if I want to make sure that they have access to the right resources, I can look at under the groups, look at the DB team, and they do have access to time card secure, and then on their RNONet, they have access to the share. So this is, we can make sure that people with the right access, that are accessing the right resources on the network and not vice versa. If something is allowed for a group that they're not supposed to have access, we can see it on their access visibility filters or logs here by going to the groups and check, see what was allowed or what was blocked. Now, one last thing that we're going to talk about here is using AV to discover apps. Basically, this is a way to discover if there is new destinations are being accessed, and the access rules have been created for that or not, or what's happening on our network. Again, it's like an event viewer that it shows what is happening or who has access to what on your network. And a good example of that I have here. For example, if I go to my marketing here, and if I click on the network, if I look at actually, maybe this is not a good one. Let's go back to another team that they do have allowed information here. So I'm going to go to networks, and you can see that we have 54 events that they were allowed. So if I go here on the network, and obviously I want to make sure that I'm on there allowed, I can see these IP destinations that they have been reached. Now, when I look at the log, if I pull a line in the middle here next to the source region, towards the left, everything is a source information, and then towards the right, everything on the destination. So I can see that 168.1.68, it was accessed by 443. That's probably my applications, and I can see these IP addresses. Now, obviously, depending on your network, if you're a network admin, you know where these IP addresses are and why they're being accessed. For example, the SNMP here that you can see, I know that it's on my AWS. It has something to do with Elastic Logstash because we're using the Wazoo agent to monitor resources that we have on AWS. But if it was something that I'm not aware of, this would have been a good place to look, see what is being accessed and by who or by what group they're being accessed. For example, I can see Jordan, Emma, these people, they access resources on my AWS, and that's why it triggered this event. Now, if I want to see when this happened, this event happened, I just drop this down and I can see the date and the time that it was accessed. So this is how you can look at different events that happen on your WPC and who access your resources and what happened. Now, let's go back to the slides here. So to recap this very quickly, basically, access visibility offers a detailed visibility into all traffic that's coming to your WPC. An access event is produced whenever a new traffic flow is either permitted or blocked due to the access control measures, and then the traffic flow, as we talk about, is characterized as a unique association between the data traffic source and its destinations. Also, you can determine which users, networks, and hosts are utilizing the internet through internet gateways. We didn't have the example here, but if you choose to have the split tunnel off for a user group, for example, let's say this is my user group, and if I click on this and I turn the split tunnel off and choose what internet gateway to use or all internet gateway. Now, if anybody from this team access the network, it should show on their, like, let's say, for example, DB team, it should show on their internet gateway what internet gateway they use, either in my case, HQNet or RNONet. So this way you can see if they're using the appropriate internet gateway, especially if you select, instead of in all internet gateway, if you select to send certain group towards one internet gateway and the other groups towards the other internet gateway. So again, you can make sure that everybody's getting routed through the right network or route, basically. So you can look at the internet gateways of tap on your events to see what internet gateway is being used. And then a couple of last things here. Obviously, you can address and resolve any unforeseen traffic routing complications. Like I showed you, if there is any problem with blocking an application or allowing an application, you can see it clearly on access visibility logs to troubleshoot. A nice, add-on for, especially if you're trying to implement zero trust network, framework on your network. Rohit, do you have anything else to add here?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so
pending questions or outstanding questions right now?
Okay, well, we can open the floor for any questions you have at this time. If you do have any questions, please go ahead, add it in the Q&A box. Just keep in mind that this feature, it's gonna have a couple of updates coming up pretty quick, so you're gonna have more, more visibility to more filtering that you can add. As I mentioned, like one of them is a 30 days time frame that you can look. I don't see any questions coming in right now. Yeah, that's a good place to ask any questions you may have. And if you don't have any questions, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Rohit, if you want to add anything, floor is yours.
Great, let's wait a minute or so. Yeah, see, there's a question here. Is there any source of alternate licensing needed? So our pricing is covers everything, so we don't have any premium features. So it covers support and everything that you see, and everything is also available in our free plan. So yeah, so we want everyone to try it out, and once they see the value of the service, then upgrade to the number of connections they need. We don't have any pricing per feature or extras.
Yeah, you just pay for one license and everything is included.
So the next question by Stefan is, we would like to log for longer than 30 days. Is there a way to do that through API, or will there be? Okay, so we have API right now for connection logs. So if you go to status, Sean, and show the connection logs. So if you go down to connections, you see these connections down there. So these can be pulled using our API, and there is no storage time. As soon as you pull, you get the connections available, or who connected, who disconnected, what's their IP address, all kinds of information at that level. at the access visibility level, right now there is no API for it. There is in the roadmap, sorry, to add that. So that's hopefully that answers your question.
Ali Raza, I saw you raised your hand. If you have any question, go ahead, type it in the Q&A box, please.
So WPC, you can think of it as your overlay private network. So that's the network that gets dedicated to you, to your use, and it's identified by the cloud ID or WPC name. So as soon as you sign up, this overlay network gets created for you. And then you connect networks, applications, and users to that overlay network by using connectors. Connectors are the ones you use to make services available to that network. And then your users can use our OpenVPN Connect app to get access to those, to your network. So by network, I mean the WPC, Wide Area Private Cloud. So, and that's how the networking, private networking works with CloudConnexa. So if you see, you can show the user URL, so this URL, so for this WPC, the WPC ID is OpenVPN Lab 22022. And anyone like Sean will provide this URL. And then as Sean is showing right now, the users can log in using the Connect app, choose one of the regions, and connect to the WPC. And once connected, they can, get access to all the applications that all your AWS VPC, all your private networks get connected to the WPC using connectors. Okay, so so Ali's question is, if I create network in different region and my WPC is in different region, what will I get? So the WPC, because we have a multi-tenant architecture, we don't spin a server or spin servers in selected regions. As soon as the service, as soon as your WPC is created, it's accessible through all the regions. So let's say here, if you connect your network using the London region, your users can connect to the Singapore region and still get access to the services of your network. There is no, they don't need to connect to the London region. They can connect to any of our regions. All our regions are connected, interconnected by our core network.
Any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna stop recording here.